Okay. Yesterday we saw a machlokes, a fundamental machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim. If a person goes ahead and sells a house, everyone agrees that the bar and the dus are not part of the sale. That the bar and dus are not part of the sale, right? They're not. So therefore, the lekeach would not have use, but the meicher, the seller, would. Question is, does the seller, when he sells, does he retain for himself a derech to get to it or not? So let Rabbi Akiva, he would not retain a derech. Why? Because the meicher always sells ba'ayin yafa. He always sells with a generous eye, and therefore he stole all the real estate, even the piafiyat of the bar. And the meicher agreed to it. He agreed to the sale, as the Rashbam said. Conversely, the Chachamim are of the opinion that a person sells ba'ayin ra'ah. He doesn't sell ba'ayin yafa. He sells ba'ayin ra'ah, and thus he would retain since the bar vidus are not part of the sale of the house. He would retain the ability to get there. He would leave himself a derech to get there. The Gemara went ahead and said, "Where do you know this from?" And we concluded from a Mishnah later on, the Sefer of the Mishnah. The question is, what is the halacha? And we'll discuss that this evening. So we're on Samich Dalit Amid Beis. Samich Dalit Amid Beis. Itmar. The last few words on the line. Itmar. Rav Huna Amar Rav. Rav Huna says in the name of Rav, Amid Aleph, halacha kedivrei chachamim. The halacha is like the chachamim, that a person sells, he sells ba'ayin ra. And therefore, if he sold his house and retained ownership of the bar and the dus, he would go ahead and retain a derech to get there. The Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar Shmuel, and Rabbi Yirmiyah says the name is Shmuel Loch Rabbi Akiva. So we have machlokes getting down to the source between Rav and Shmuel, right? Rav Huna, the Talmud Muvik of Rav, quoting Rav, that the halacha is like the Chachamim, and Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba quoting the opinion of Shmuel that the halacha is like Shmuel, that like the halacha is like Rabbi Akiva, that ba'ayin yafa. The halacha is like Rabbi Akiva. So again, the machlokes Tanoim, we have machlokes Amoraim as to what the halacha. Rav like the Chachamim ba'ayin ra, and Shmuel like Rabbi Akiva ba'ayin yafa. Amle Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba Rav Huna, says Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba to Rav Huna, who said what ba'ayin ra, but zimnin sagin. Other times, on Misa Kamei de Rav, I said the halacha in front of Rav, Hilchasa Rabbi Akiva v'lei amali v'lei midi. So you told me that he holds like Rabbi Akiva, that like the Chachamim ba'ayin ra. Apparently, what he doesn't, because I said the halacha is like Rabbi Akiva ba'ayin yafa in front of Rav, and he was maskim. He didn't say anything. Amalei, so said Rav Huna to Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba, Hechi Tanisa, how exactly did you say it in front of Rav? Amalei, Ibcha Tanina. I said the opposite of what you told me. I said Rabbi Akiva holds the halacha is ayin ra, and the Chacham hold ayin yafa. So said Rav Huda, Mishum Hachi le Amalach le Midi. Therefore, Rav did not go ahead and say anything to you, because he held ba'ayin ra, and you quoted Rabbi Akiva saying ba'ayin ra. That's his shita, ba'ayin ra. So therefore, obviously, if you quoted Rabbi Akiva and not the Chachamim, so you know why he didn't say anything to you? Because he agrees that a person's meicha, he's meicha ba'ayin ra. Okay, so bottom line is we have no change. The question was the question that he asked that Rav didn't mention anything when you mentioned that the halacha is like Rabbi Akiva, because the quote was like ayin ra. Okay, so Rav holds ayin ra and Shmuel holds ayin yafa. Amalei Ravino Ravashi. Lema Azdu Litamayo. So again, let's say they go according to their reasonings, that Rav and Shmuel go according to their reasonings. Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Now again, we need Shmuel to hold guys ayin yafa, correct? We need Shmuel to hold ayin yafa. Now, many times in Shas, we've had a case of achin shechalku, brothers that are going ahead dividing, and we said this is shita, they're lekuchais, they're buying it, or yarshim. The nafkamina was linyan breira, right? Like the shmita, whether it goes back, they're in shmita, if lekuchen it goes back. So we had it a few times. So this is going to the opinion that they're lekuchen. Ha'achin shechalku, they're dividing up an estate. Ein lahem loy derech zeh al zeh, v'loy suluma zeh al zeh. They don't have a derech on each other. Why? Because when they sell it, they're selling ba'ayin yafa. So they would not be able to go ahead and have access to something. Let's see Rashbam here. Brothers are dividing, go parallel to the Gemara. If they divide two fields, one takes the outer, one takes the inner. The only way the inner can get to his field is through the outer, right? Says Shmuel, the Pnimi does not have a derech. He's going to have to buy it. Because since they're lekuchais, when they divided it up and they sold to each other, he sold his portion to the other out guy with complete hearts. And Mameli, he never left himself away to get to the middle. He never left anything to the middle. He sold him the whole field. So again, guys, we want to say that both Rab and Shmuel are going consistently. So with two brothers are dividing an estate, when they divide it up, we view it as each one is selling their portion to the other one. So you have two fields, an inner and an outer, right? The father would go ahead, he would go through the outer field and walk to the inner field. There was a derech there, good. However, when they divided the estate, one person, the outer guy, sold his portion to the inner guy for the inner guy's field. The inner guy sold his portion in the outer field to the outer guy. He sold it so much that there is no derech. Why? Because when he sold be'ayin yafeh, with his generous eye. That's the shita of Rabbi Akiva that Shmuel quoted above. The halachas like Rabbi Akiva. So when it says over here that two brothers are dividing a field, and we'll view them as lekuchin. We'll view them as lekuchin. Ein lehem loy derech zeh al zeh. The inner one does not have a derech on the outer one. Because why? Because he sold it by yafa, and that's like Shmuel. Setting up ladders, so therefore one will be able to go ahead and put in front of a window, build a wall. Be careful, that's Shmuel. The Rav Amar, Yesh lahem, they do have a derech on each other. Why does Rav hold that way? Because he holds like Dabbai Yafa Ra. He holds like the Chachamim, right? He holds what? He holds like the Chachamim. Since he holds like the Chachamim, that's his opinion, and therefore he sells it what? Be'ayin. He sells it be'ayin Ra, and therefore the inner one would retain ownership of the part of the field of the outer one, which would allow him to go ahead and be nichnas into his field. So Nimsa, you have two machloikasid. You have Rav pasking like the Chachamim by a person who sells a house and he leaves over the bari retains right and he leaves himself a path. According to Rabbi Akiva, he did not leave himself a path. And now you have the din by Achan Shechalko. So l'chayra, you have two venues of Rav and Shmuel disagreeing. One by the case of Bor Vidus and one by the case of Achan Shechalko. Good. So now we want to know, why do they have to go ahead and argue in these two venues? Good. So tzricha, you need these two machloikas in. The ashminan, the machloikas, ba'hi in the din of Achan Shechalku, then ba'hi kama Rav. Therefore, Rav says what? They have a derech one and the other. Mishum the amalei be'ina lemei be ki heche de dora be'avasei. I want to go ahead and live in this field the same way Daddy did. Daddy had a derech going from the outer field to the inner field. So be'emes, it's not pshat that Rav, if you just had this, that Rav holds ba'ayin ra. It's not pshat ayin ra. It's a taina, koyach a taina. Before the vision, Daddy had a way. I want to retain that way, but not because he holds ayin ra. So like teida dechsiv tachas avosecha yebanecha. In place of the father should be the children, so there should be no difference. But regarding the machloikis by Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim, whether you retain a derech to go to the bar v'dos, ema moidalei l'shmuel that you sell ba'ayin yafa. Kemash malon that what? No, the halacha is like the chachamim that you sell ba'ayin ra. Be it machloikis b'ha regarding Reb Akiva and the chachamim over there. The halacha is like there. Shmuel says ba'ayin yafa. Aval b'ha by the case of Achan Shechalku ema moidelei l'raf, right? Because of the svara, I want to live the same way Daddy lives. So it's tzricha. You need to tell me that even in that venue we say what ba'ayin yafa, and guess what? You don't live the same way Daddy lived. So again, Machloikis Rav and Shmuel, two venues. Rav passes like the Chachamim regarding the Bar V'dus. You retained ownership of a road. Shmuel passes like Rabbi Akiva. You did not retain ownership. They have the same Machloikis by Achan Shecholku. It was necessary to tell me in both venues because you would think that the reason why by Achan Shecholku, the reason why you retained the road is because you want to be there like Daddy. But Ein Ochinami the Chacham would hold Ba'ayin Yafa also. Kamash Shmuel on that not. And Rabbi Akiva, you would think you have to tell me the case by Shmuel, but over there maybe it's Moeder to Rav. Kamash Malon that what even there he argues. So you have to tell me both cases. Bottom line, who do we paskin like, guys? Right? Usually, this would be a dine mominus, so I think you would paskin like Shmuel. But chayritz machloikas tanoim, Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim. So in other words, it's not a machloikas Rav and Shmuel where they're being cholik, they're arguing in Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim. Good? So usually the majority wins. The rule of thumb is machloikas Rabbi Akiva v'chaveirov halacha Rabbi Akiva, but Yachid v'Rabim is halacha Karabim. Says the Gemara, Amalei Rav Nachman and Rav Huna, says Rav Nachman to Rav Huna, who paskin like Rav ba'ayin ra hilchas hakavasin is the halacha what like us k'maisenu. In other words, kishmuel u'k'maisi is the halacha like us. Rav Nachman held like Shmuel. So you want to know, is the halacha like us? Or hilchas hakavasaychu was the halacha like you, Rav Huna and Rav? In other words, we want to get to the bottom of it, guys. We want to get to the bottom of it. We had Machlokas Tanoim, we had Machlokas Amaroyim, and now Rav Nachman, who is the Paisik, who said that the halacha is that the ayin yafa. What's the bottom line? So he wants to know. He asks Rav Huna, is the halacha kavasin like us, meaning me and Shmuel, or hilchas kavasaychu like you and Rav? So Amalei Rav Huna said to Rav Nachman, hilchas kavasaychu. The halacha is like you, meaning ba'ayin yafa, like Rabbi Akiva. The mekarivu the bava the reish galusa. The halacha is like you, sis what? You're the chassan of the reish galusa. The shchichi dayane, that you're around a lot of psak halacha, and you see that what? That they paskin like Rabbi Akiva, that the halacha is ba'ayin yafa. You see, as you see, this is the way they noyig, that they noyig Rabbi Akiva. So again, this is you say this to Machlokes and Shas, where the Machlokes is like Rav and Shmuel, and here the halacha even is like Shmuel and like Rabbi Akiva, that a person sells ba'ayin yafa. He sells ba'ayin yafa. Okay. Itmar. Shtei batim zelifnim mizeh. You have two houses, one within the other. So the inside one needs a derech to go through the outside one. Good. Now, these two houses are owned by one individual, and now he goes ahead and either shneim b'mecher or shneim b'matana. He either sells both or he gives away both. Ein lehem derech zeh al zeh, meaning the outer guy is going to have to buy from the inner guy is going to have to buy from the outer guy a road. Let's see Rashbam, guys, where it gets wide, about 8 lines down. Shneim b'mecher. You sold it simultaneously to two people. By shneim biyachad b'matana, the shnei b'nei adam. Well, you gave it what to two people as a gift. Ein lo derech lepnimi al hachitzain. The inner guy does not have a derech to go through the outer guy. Dichihechi lepnimi zovin v'yov b'ayin yafe. Right, just like lepnimi, he sold it b'ayin yafe. The chitzain nami b'ayin yafa yahiv v'zayev. Either he gave it or he sold it, and therefore he sold the derech. V'lei mikri ayin ra. Now afil l'rabbanon. Even the rabbanon in this case would be moida that it's only called ayin ra. Elaheche de machar es hapnimi ve'ikiv la'atzmai es hachitzain, and he left the outside for himself. Kimas nisan, guys. Outside, eye contact on Zoom. eye contact on Zoom. The whole din of ayin ra, the Chiddush is Rashbam, is where the original owner retains ownership. What's our case? He sold the house, but he retained ownership of the bar and the dus. Then we'll say he sold it by ayin ra and leave himself a derech. But where the owner is completely out of the picture, in this case, he sold both lands or gave both as a matana. Even the chachamim is moida, he does it by ayin yafa. It's an important yisoid of the Rashbam, right? That it's not that they always hold ayin ra. No, if he's out, he holds by ayin yafa. Again, the Rabbanan say, again, this is an important line in the Rashbam. V'lei mikri ayin ra, afil Rabbanan el heicha demachar sapnimi v'ikiv le'atzmo, for himself. Esachitzain kimasnisan aval heichad le'ikiv le'atzmei klum, where he's totally out of the picture. The kuli alma moida, everyone's moida, even the chachamim. The outer house, he sold everything, including the derech to the pnimi, including that derech. Ulezer kol pnimi. The ein le pnimi al chitzain klum. Pleisia eina yafa lezer v'ro lezer. It shouldn't be that what? Oh, for this guy, he sells ba'ayin yafa to the pnimi, and to the achitzain he sells ba'ayin ra, and he doesn't let him out. So when it says over here, guys, shtei batim zelach nimzeh, shnei yemach shnei mezeh, elam derech zal zeh, they don't have a derech. This is the kuli alma. You don't have the chachamim arguing over here. And why? Because the guy sold both or gave both away. Good yisoid, guys. Good yisoid to know. Right? Good yisoid to know. The kol shekain chitzain b'matana upnimi b'mecher. In the case where he gave the outside guy b'matana and the inner b'mecher, certainly the pnimi does not have a derech on the outside, because you see he loves the outside guy more. He's giving it to him as a present. Not only when they're both equal, they're sold to both, or both in matana, kol shekain, where the inner one was a sale and the outer one was a matana, that the inner guy can't go out, doesn't have a derech. Why? Because he was so benevolent giving the outer one b'matana. So therefore, chitzain b'mecher, about this case, the chitzain b'mecher, he sold it to the outside guy, upnimi b'matana, and the inner guy he gave us a matana. Savamina ein lehem derech zeh al zeh. Now, they said there's no difference. The ein lehem derech zeh al zeh, that the pnimi, which was b'matana, and the outside was b'mecher. So, guys, over here, let's figure this out. Who's he being more benevolent to this time? The pnimi. The pnimi is getting it as a matana. It's the outer guy's b'mecher. So initially they held there's no difference. And what's the answer? There's a big difference. Where the pnimi is b'mecher and the outside's b'matana, I understand that the pnimi doesn't have a derech. But if the pnimi is a matana and the outer guy's a mecha, obviously he likes the inner guy a lot because he's giving him matana. It must be that what? He left him a derech also. Says the Gemara. It's not true. When do we say this? Whenever did we say the Rabbanon argue that's dafka b'meicher? Avo b'noisim matana noisnes kulon. He gives everything, meaning even the road. He's going. So the pnimi would get his house and he'd get the road through the chitzain. Alma mandiyav matana b'ayin yafa yahiv. In other words, fellas, if you give him matana of the bar vidus, guys, outside. The medama mamurim that the chacham say ba'ayin ra, that's only when it's b'mecher. If you give the bar vidus as a matana, then also you're giving him the derech to get there. So too over here, if you give the inner one b'matana, the pnimi b'matana, and the outer one, the chitzon b'mecher, he's giving it the matana, he's giving the derech to go out. And that's the sugya of mecher of ayin ra and ayin yav. Says the Mishnah. Hamoicheres abayis. Someone goes out and sells a house. Mocheres adeles. Included in the sale of is a deles. Now remember, guys, in the sale of a house, it has to be the shtamshus of the house. We spoke at earlier. Let's go just a little review. The yagia, the extension, is not part of the sale, even though what it's the same as shtamshus. but it's not part of the house. The cheder used for storage, even though it's part of the house, it's not the same as shtamshus. The reason why the bor vidus are not part of the sale of roima because it's not part of a shtamshus. It's for drawing water. Okay, so again, the purpose of a shtamshus plays a big role in how the use of what's included in the sale. So if you sell a house, mocher es hadeles, included in the sale is a delis, is a door, avaloyas hamaftech, but not the key. Says Rashbam, mocher es habayis stam, mocher klolodim also, kol tashmishe bayis hakavuin, any use of the house that is kaiveya, mechurim are sold, the chal bayis. But things that are moved that are not kavua ain't a mechurin. So even over here, the shtamshus here with a different criteria. If it's not the same, if it's not mechuber, if it's not kavua for the house, then what? Then it's not part of the sale. It's not part of the sale. So you would think a key is part of the sale, right? We're going to see that sometimes the key is taken out, sometimes not. It depends. A key can be taken out, a key cannot be taken out. A key, okay. Machares hamachteshes kavua. Machteshes is a mortar. Kavua means it's set. That's part of the sale. Avaloyas hamitateles, but not the mortar that is movable. Machar es itztarubel. Around the mill, they had a wooden frame that was kavua. So if you sell this taruba, it's part of the sale since it's kavua. Avaloyas hakeles. The keles, I have no idea what it is. It's called a hopper in Art Scroll. It must be the place where they feed the grain into. Avaloyas hatan, avaloyas hakirayim. These are not, they're not attached to the ground with clay. They're movable. Bisman sha'amalot. Okay, so what's the rule? The rule is the part of the sale is when it's kavua. When it's not part of the sale, then it's not kavua, then it's not part of the sale. Okay. Bisman she'amalayhu v'chol masha b'saychay. However, if he says, I'm selling you the house and everything in it, amid beis, hari kulan mechurin, they're all sold. They're all sold. Now, let's qualify this. Says Rashbam, what do you mean everything? Kol hanich tashmishin hamitaltolin. The ones that the tashmish for the house that I'm multitolin. Avol shar mini tashmishay loy mizdavin. Pirish, guys. In order to be part of the sale, you need two things: hishtamshus of the house and kavua. Lacking the kavua, even though it's hishtamshus for the house, it's not part of the sale. However, if you say the house, the chol mashe b'soichai, then it would include not only that's kavua, but even that's metaltel, provided what? It's hishtamshus for the house. You need that hishtamshus for the house. But let's say it has nothing to do with the house and it's metaltel, then even though you said kol mashe b'soichai, that's not part of the sale. Says Rashbam again. Hari kula mechurin kol hanech tashmishin hametaltlin avol shar mine tashmishaha, right? Loy mizdavna. Why? Because it's lacking the ishtamshus of the house. V'afa gav the amar kol mashe b'saychay ani moichalacha shalei riba v'loshen zeh el tashmishin hamiyuchadim lebayis. That's the key, guys. It's tashmishin that are miyuchid for the house. That's what you're selling. Tashmishin that are miyuchid for the house. Zeh she'enu regilin lahashilon b'fnei kfeidan, and things that are not usually what lent because of the heaviness. What about a mafteach? Mafteach nami ikra tashmishoy lepoisacha shel deles. The purpose of the key is to open the door of the house. Vein roy lacheres, and it's not roy for another door, and therefore, even though it's metaltal, it's going to stay over here. The reason why you didn't sell that because they're not bottled to the house, because you can go ahead and move them. So again, says the Rashbam, when it says Harikulon Mechurin, we have to qualify that. It's not everything, it's a Dava Metaltal that's what is Miyuchid for the house. It has to be Klimish Tashmishin for the house. So again, just chazing over the Mishnah outside. If you sell a house Anything that's kavua and tashmish for the house is part of the sale. Anything that's not kavua, even though it's for the tishtamshus of the house, is not part of the sale. Even though it's kavua, even though it's for the tishtamshus of the house, not part of the sale. Conversely, if you added kol mashe b'soichai, then it would be part of the sale. But lacking hishtamshus of the house, then it won't be part of the sale. Let's say a Mishnah is not like Reb Meir. The Reb Meir, because if it's Reb Meir, Reb Meir is of the opinion, Mocha es kerem. If you sell a kerem, Mocha tashmishe kerem, you're selling the tashmishe kerem. In other words, you'll be selling even the metaltal that is used for the kerem. Amish the metaltal not. Afilotem Reb Meir, hasam kaviyah, hachalei kaviyah. Maybe over there it's speaking what? Where it's kaveya, when it's something that's kaveya for the kerem, which is the same din of ours. Hacha by us like kaveya, it's not kaveya. It's not kaveya. By us, it's not kaveya. Fred the Gemara v'mafteach dumya dedelis katani. In our Mishnah, we said a key similar to a door. Ma delis de kaveya, just like a delis that's kaveya. Af nafteach de kaveya. So to the kaveya, so to the key is speaking about a key that is miyuchid for this door, and nonetheless, it's not part of the sale, and not part of the sale. And like Reb Meir, it should be part of the sale, right? Look, says El Mechabarti, you're correct. Masnisan the like Reb Meir. Our Mishnah is not like Reb Meir. Reb Meir would disagree with the Mishnah. He would say anything for this touch Mishnah from the house would be part of the sale, despite the fact that it's not kavua. Tanrabana. Hamochres abayis. Mocheres adeles, the eshat nagar. You're selling the house and you're selling the nagar. Now the nagar, the Shmam says a briach is a bolt. If you see Rabbeinu Gershom is fascinating. If you can find Rabbeinu Gershom on the side, guys, the eshat nagar. Hainu beriach shekavua b'koisel l'maylam and adeles. There seems to be some type of bolt that is set in the wall above the door. Ukeshenoyel hadeles. And when you close the door, Neifel hanagar ad la'aretz v'niloi. It seems to go down, it descends, and it must have a hole in the bottom that it descends into, and it stops the door from opening up. So the nagar is exactly that. It stops the door from opening. So there seems to be a lock. In addition to the lock, there seems to be a briach. I still remember going to apartment buildings. People had like to support the door. The people who were very paranoid, they had these like iron things to go ahead and I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. They had it against the door like this. So this seems to be, it would descend down according to the. So this would be part of the sale. So machas abayis machas adelis ves hanagar, because this is all kavua. Ves hamano, the lock in the door is kavua. It stays in the door. Avois mafteach, which you could take out of the door. Machares hamachteshes hachakuka. You're going ahead and you're selling the machteshes that's chakuka. You had a mortar that seemed to be hollowed out of the wall, and therefore it was kavua, and that's part of the sale. Avaloyas hakavua. Let's say you would go ahead and you would be chokak. You would go ahead and take a stone, you would make it into a mortar, and then you would attach it. That's not considered mechuber. So this is important for tomorrow's Gemara, guys. If you have a wall and you go ahead and in the wall you're banging a place to make a mortar, that's part of the sale. If you make the mortar and then put it in the wall, that's not part of the sale. It's not considered mechubar. It's the ruble. Again, that wooden frame around the mill is kavua. Avalayas hakeles, which is not kavua. Loyas hatanor. This is basically a Mishnah with a little elaboration. Loyas hatanor, v'loyas hakirayim. The Tanur Karayim are also not part of the sale because they're movable. V'loyas harechayim, nor the mill. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, kol ha'mechubel karka, hariyunke karka. Rabbi Eliezer is of the opinion anything that's mechubel karka would be considered karka. Anything that's mechubel karka would be considered karka. And I guess we're going to see he's arguing about the machteshus kavua. Let's say you made the mortar, guys. You made the mortar and then you attached it. He would disagree. Anything that's kavua, even though you made it outside the wall, once attached to the ground, to the wall, it's considered kavua. So he's arguing on that bin. That would be part of the sale. So regardless whether you you chokak in the wall or chokak outside and then put it in the wall, you would be what? Part of the sale. Because he says anything that's mechubal karka is considered karka. So he's arguing on that then. Bisman sha'amalai hu v'chol ma shebesaychai. When he says it and anything that's in it, harikulim mechurin, they're all part of the sale. Bein kach u'bein kach. Now, whether he said kol ma shebetoichai or not kol shebetoichai, loy macha loy yasabor v'loy yasadus. Again, this has nothing with the tashmish to do with the house. Loy yasayitzia, nor the extension mat, which is not part of the house. Okay, we'll stop over here.